I'm Alan Ning. I'm with Dahlia Schweitzer. She is Associate Professor of Media and Film, and she has two books, Going Viral and Haunted Homes. Just real briefly, what is Haunted Homes about?
Haunted Homes looks at haunted homes in American film and television. So basically, haunted houses, possessed children, evil technology, that kind of thing.
What's kind of the earliest film you start off with?
Oh God, probably there's an old one called The Old Dark House, which is from a million years ago. But the film that really kind of inspired the book was the Amityville series.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. It sounds very Amityville to me. Okay,
yeah,
so
that was kind of inspired the premise.
Okay, and that's Amazon and everywhere, or
everywhere.
Everywhere. All right, so yeah, be sure to pick that up. Today we're talking about The Tomorrow War, starring Chris Pratt, and it's currently on Amazon Prime Video. So we're going to talk about general themes within The Tomorrow War, and we are going to get spoilery. So if you haven't seen it and don't want to be spoiled, watch it first and then come back here because we're getting right into it. So the basic premise is that there's an alien invasion that takes place in the future. Humanity goes back in time to the present and basically conscripts the global population of the world to fight this future war. And so I want to talk about the time travel aspect of it first. To me, this does play into time travel, but I felt like the stakes were pretty low, especially when you compare it to movies like I hear Back to the Future and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, in the sense that, decisions you make in the past, technically the movie takes place in the past, affects the future and has these grand ramifications. But, I feel like it's more of a gimmick in this movie than it is, something seriously thought out.
Well, I have two comments. One is the stakes are incredibly high because it's the end of the world. So, Chris Pratt has to single-handedly zip back and forth between, present day or past or whatever and the future in order to save the entire world. So that's
and I think by low stakes, I mean just the use of time travel and its effect and ramifications on events in the future. To me, that was low stakes versus the overall plot of the movie, which is very high stakes.
I think you've also nailed it when you said that the time travel element feels more gimmicky, and I feel like that sort of applies to the movie as a whole. Where the movie as a whole, I don't think, even if you enjoyed the film, which I kind of did, it doesn't feel well thought out. So it's not just the time travel that I think is a sort of superficial gimmick.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think you've hit my feelings about the film. For what it is, it was fun. It's not the greatest movie ever made. It's not necessarily a thinker, but it does, there are elements that they introduced that I don't feel were played seriously. I bring up, I'm thinking of Starship Troopers as a comparison where, in reality, Starship Troopers is a very anti-war film. But the way it plays out, it feels like a very pro-war movie. And, I think this movie has a lot it wants to say, but I don't think it really wants to say it in any serious way.
It's funny because I read some reviews of the movie that slammed it for kind of tonal dissonance and having these sort of out of place comedic moments. But I actually kind of loved the out of place comedic moments because I feel like the movie, as you said, doesn't take itself seriously.
Yeah. And
I don't think it expects the audience to take itself seriously. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think, to compare it again to Starship Troopers, there are comedic moments, but that one, I think that felt more tonally out of it. It felt more, I don't know, more snarky than anything versus this one where I think it just wants to be this kind of fun sci-fi adventure.
I kind of wish that I could have been in some of the pre-production meetings to know what it was, what their sort of agenda was, because I'm curious, did they take the movie very seriously? Because you're talking about, the similarities between it and Starship Troopers. And I was really blown away, not necessarily in a good way, by the similarities to Alien.
Mhm.
And I might even argue that it was, I don't know, I guess you could say it was an homage to Alien, but I feel like it really ripped off so many elements from Alien, both visually and thematically. And in some ways, Alien is such a more sort of progressive, radical movie, whereas this one was really almost like cringeworthy in its sort of regressive nature. So we can talk about that more.
Yeah, actually expand on that a little more. I'll be honest, I've not seen Alien. I'm very chicken.
Wait, what?
I know, I'm very chicken when it comes to these
Wait, you haven't seen Alien?
I haven't. I can tell you my wife is very much into horror films. Maybe this is something we can address down the road where maybe I've been challenged to start getting into the horror genre, and I've been I'm trying to prepare myself to actually take that challenge one day.
Does Chris Gore know that you haven't seen Alien?
Oh yeah. I don't know specifically Alien, but he knows my feelings about horror films, and we have plenty of writers who will cover horror films. So I'm perfectly happy to not have to dive too deeply into this.
Okay, well, I am outraged that you haven't seen Alien, and I feel like you should clear your schedule and watch it today, because once you've seen it, you'll be like, oh my God, and you might even, I feel a little bit uncomfortable about the Tomorrow War and be like, has Ridley Scott seen the Tomorrow War? Because maybe he could sue them.
Well, in my defense, I will be seeing Space Jam tonight, so maybe that's...
Well, maybe a Space Jam Alien double feature. But so Alien is an amazing film classic for many different reasons, but it really kind of tackles gender issues in a really complex and interesting way. So first of all, you've got the amazing Sigourney Weaver playing Ripley, the hero. And when the movie was originally sort of being planned, the studio wanted it to be wanted the Sigourney Weaver character to be played by a man, because of course it's always a man in an action movie.
But especially at that time when the Alien came out.
I mean, let's be honest, as we see in the Tomorrow War, still in 2021, we love our white male heteronormative action heroes. But Ridley Scott, kind of stamped his foot and insisted it had to be Sigourney Weaver. And so it's really sort of like the first blockbuster action movie with a female hero. So that's really radical. And then there are themes of sort of being, anti-institution. The crew is on this ship that is being sent into space by the company, right? And so you have these capitalistic themes going on. So there's so many interesting things. But what's relevant to the Tomorrow War is, so first of all, the Tomorrow War obviously casts Chris Pratt in the action hero role. So that's kind of regressive. One of the things that's really significant in Alien is there's no appearance of the domestic, the family, right? It's like the characters are all kind of out in space, and you don't have there's no woman as preparing the food, cleaning the dishes, right? So there's no element of that kind of gendering. Whereas in the Tomorrow War, you have, Dan Forrester's wife, Emmy, who's played by Betty Gilpin, who's a great actress, in really a throwaway role. I mean, her job is to be upset when he gets drafted and to be happy when he comes home. Oh, sorry, that's my dog. So this idea of the domestic and the fact that Chris Pratt, and even I looked it up, I'm always interested in how movies are marketed. And then on IMDb, the little one sentence description of the movie, I wrote it down, is a family man is drafted to fight in a future war where the fate of humanity relies on his ability to confront the best. So it's this idea of a family man, and he's got to save his wife and his daughter, and we get over and over again, he's got to save his daughter. Whereas in Alien, it's you've got Ripley as this badass who's not, there's no love plot to kind of, complicate things or bring it down. So that was disappointing in the Tomorrow War. And then one other thing, so first of all, the design of the alien in the Tomorrow War is basically a duplicate of the alien in Alien. And you have the sort of this long mouth, which looks kind of like, it's phallic, and then the mouth opens and it's lined with all these teeth, which look like a vagina, and you have that exact same kind of masculine feminine fusion in Alien, where the alien rapes people and like impregnates them, so it sort of has these masculine characteristics and the phallic nature of its shape, but then at the same time has these very feminine characteristics, and so you have exactly that ripped off in Tomorrow War. And then also in Alien, you have all these womb-like spaces where the characters have to go into these womb-like spaces. Both like the ship itself is kind of womb-like, and when they're going to get the alien, they go into this kind of like womb-like space. And in the Tomorrow War, when they go into the sort of the spaceship that's been buried under the snow in Russia, I don't know if you remember, but it's also womb-like, and they go through these like long hallways, and the aliens are in these sort of very like womb-like pods, that they have to break them out of. So
are you saying that this is more of a tradition in film? Because I guess maybe when I interpreted it, it was more of the insectoid, the hive, and that's kind of what we were. At least that's how I interpreted it in that way. That it's moving more toward the animalistic presentation, the allegory, so to speak. That's how this is a hive. I think you are much smarter about it than I am.
I think you need to see Alien, and then first of all, just the fact that the alien monsters look identical in both movies.
Yeah,
and
I've seen enough of Alien to understand where you're heading with that one. Yeah, I'm just thinking, because this is like I think also about A Quiet Place, where the aliens there are similar, and I think this is kind of the tradition in these alien invasion type movies. Even Independence Day, there's aspects of all aliens tend to be insectoid in some way, even more toward the spider and the arachnid world.
Well, maybe they're all ripping off Alien.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely creepier creatures, because we moved away from V, where it's kind of the humanoid. Yeah, we are moving away when it comes to aliens from humanoid models, except for Star Trek and Star Wars. If you want a scary, deadly alien, we've got to make them monsters. We can't make them human beings, and if we do, then they become more conspiratorial in plot lines.
Sure, but I still think that like H.R. Giger, who designed the alien in Alien, I think that idea of the really long kind of head, neck, with all the teeth lined up, like I feel like that's sort of being duplicated. And then you have these themes like in Alien, as I said, you have this sort of anti-capitalistic notion where, the company isn't interested in protecting its people and is sort of, like doesn't care if they die. And then in the Tomorrow War, I feel like you have this really interesting messaging where the government fails, right? And Chris Pratt really has to go rogue in order to save the world and deliberately disobey the government. And then there's that amazing moment where the government then takes credit for what Chris Pratt did.
I mean, I see a lot of parallels in that. Even we'll go back. I mean, Starship Troopers to me is kind of the closest comparison to this movie. It's the same thing. It's this idea that the government, if you want to earn certain benefits in life, become citizens, either buy your way in or you serve in this insane war. And, you talked about the fact that this is a war for the survival of humanity. But it does hit on themes of forced conscription.
The draft thing.
I'm still old enough to remember the draft from Vietnam. They're to me, it's like, what is that issue that's so big that the government is justified in drafting its citizens? The last time that people felt justified with the draft was probably World War II.
Yeah, and you have the movie goes out of its way to highlight the trauma of PTSD and how, all the soldiers, first of all, that most people die. Most of the draftees die, and then the ones who come back are basically ruined for life. Is also a really interesting commentary on the nature of war, and also how the soldiers are untrained. How they're just like sent into the future without even really knowing how to use their weapons. I mean, it's kind of a scathing indictment of the sort of military government complex.
Yeah, we just want to give you guns. We're going to drop you, shoot your gun, and if you survive, well, good for you. Thanks for your service.
But you probably won't survive. So
yeah, and therefore we'll give your family $1 million. This kind of circles back to this whole time paradox thing, because if you think about it logically, in the future, this alien invasion happens. You have all of humanity unable to stop it. So then they go back in time to conscript new soldiers, which would and then only a third of them survive. And so when you think about going into the future, you've already decimated 2/3 of the world's population at that point. And then, so now there does come this time paradox that I just feel like, that's where I get into the gimmicky aspect of it, because it's really not taking that in seriously, because this is something at least I was thinking about while watching the movie.
And also just, if you think too hard about it, it's like, okay, so then Chris Pratt changes the course of history by coming up with this device to get rid of the aliens. So then what happens moving forward? Does his daughter, follow the same career path? Because obviously everything is now different. So I think it's one of those movies where you really can't think too hard about it or your head will explode.
Yeah. Well, the other one was, I think the implication was that, and we're getting really spoilery at this moment, but an alien ship crash landed in the Arctic, froze, and then it was global warming that warmed the ship up, which opened the alien attack. But then to destroy it in the past, they caused this massive explosion in the middle of the Arctic, which probably did just as much damage than global warming at that point.
Oh yeah, but I do like this theme. Like you saw it on I don't know if you ever watched the TNT show The Last Ship, but you have the same kind of idea where it's like, as the snow melts, stuff is then revealed, exposed, transmitted, whatever. And so it's kind of like, not only are we doomed because of global warming, but that it's going to have all these like sort of horrific repercussions, like aliens emerging from the snow in Russia. So I am a fan of that little plot twist.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that, but they kind of undid it by blowing up the ship.
Oh, of course.
And causing a massive fire explosion.
Yeah. No. I mean, there's nothing, again, this is one of those movies where it's like, don't think too hard about it, because it's just like, just sort of like sit back and like let the pretty pictures unfold.
Mm-hmm. So let me get back to your main point about about Alien. I mean, what is your general sense then? Let's just say it was an homage. Is it, or let's talk about the regressive nature from a storytelling standpoint. Just how, it feels like you're saying that the stories we're telling today are regressing versus the story that Ridley Scott told back in Alien, that we're moving in the wrong direction, so to speak. Yeah,
and I think that to me was the most troubling, that it's like, you'd like to feel that we've made more progress. And instead we still have this sort of, white male hetero dude who's saving the world.
Yeah. And I'll say this about the women's role in the movie. Women as presented in this movie, they're either at the top of the game, in charge, or they're kind of the, in the case of Mary Lynn Rice Cub, she's just the average person holding a gun. There's not a lot of in between there where I think that in reality there would be. You would see much more stronger female characters alongside Chris Pratt at this point.
And even the character of the daughter, who is very smart and helps to save the world, Chris Pratt still has to save her. right?
Mhm.
So it's not even like, oh, it was a team effort. It's still, and I don't know, it reminded me a lot of these narratives that came out after 2001, sort of like 24 with Jack Bauer, right? Where there was this sort of this return to, we need this rogue hero, right? Who's working on his own, who's not part of the government, who's not part of an institution, who has to sort of go out on his own to save everybody. And to save the women, save the children. You have sort of a similar thing in World War Z, where it's like, oh, here we go again with the white male saving the day. And and then also the emphasis on the fact that he's the family man, and it's like, if you're going to go to the trouble of giving him a wife and a daughter, like, at least give the wife more of a role, but instead
Yeah.
she's just like the caretaker. So to me, that was really disappointing. And
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will defend I'll defend Chris Pratt, like you wrote it. I'll defend Chris Pratt in the sense of, when he's saving Yvonne Strahovski, I mean, that's his daughter.
Sure.
And as a father who has a daughter, yeah, I mean, I might do some crazy, stupid things to save her life. And, and I think that's, I'm not going to fault him for that. But
no, I'm not faulting. I'm just saying, my point being that I think the most kind of intelligent and empowered female character in the movie is his adult daughter, right? Because she's the one who somehow single-handedly is devising the antidote or whatever. But I'm saying that even she has to be saved by him. So it's like, if you have the hierarchy of, powerful people in the movie, he's still on the top.
Yeah, right? I'm not sure I'm hung up on that. I think I'm more hung up on the fact that you said she's the one. She is the one, she's the only one in terms of at least the female or the woman in the leadership position. And I think that's, that feels very checkboxy. Like, okay, well, we got one here, so we're good to tell the rest of the story as we normally would.
I think I've especially since the election in 2016, my quota for cis white men saving the world has been capped. So I would love to go back and just rewatch Alien over and over again.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I need to see these sort of strong women. And the idea of like strong women being saved by white men, it's like, oh God, this again.
Yeah.
No, but that's me. That's my thing.
No, I mean, this is for another discussion, but to me, the biggest problem I have with Hollywood currently is it's the discrimination, or the discrimination against people who are not pretty.
Sure.
We're only going to cast these movies with people who are attractive, regardless of race, gender, and so on. That's a whole other discussion that we're going to one day have. So.
Yeah, maybe in our next conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So, hey, I think it felt like generally we liked the Tomorrow War as a story, but it's not, it's not groundbreaking. I don't think it's going to be one of these movies we're going to be talking about years from now. And clearly you're going all the way back to Alien. So, clearly we've not progressed much since Alien at this point.
No, we've actually regressed, which is what drove me crazy. But to be fair, I would never have watched this movie on my own, right? So sci-fi action movie, Chris Pratt saving the world, aliens, like no interest. But as you can see from the chaos behind me, I just moved and I needed to put something on while I was unpacking.
And my city was destroyed by aliens. So,
we both needed distraction. And Amazon Prime was like, watch this movie. And so I was like, okay, fine. And I put it on, and like some of the reviews criticized it for being too long. And I enjoyed it. I had it on, I unpacked. It was a pleasant way to pass the time.
Yeah.
That's my review.
All right. I mean, I'm not too far off from that either. So I think maybe we're going to kind of make this a series. So maybe next time I'll see Aliens and we'll talk about that.
You have got to get on that. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So be sure to like, subscribe. Let us know what you thought of the Tomorrow War. Did you agree with us? Did you not? We want to hear that. And with that, let's get out of here.